I enjoy watching movies. That's why I watch them in the first place. But then there's an entire genre of film that is meant almost not to be enjoyed, and that's the war movie. That doesn't mean there's not enjoyable war films, films like Gladiator, Braveheart. But then in 1998, Saving Private Ryan came out, and that movie's not an enjoyable film. It's a phenomenal piece of cinema history, one of the greatest movies ever made. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, although I very loosely use the term favorite. Um, and so we've gotten great war films throughout the years, I should say. 1917 came out in 2019. That movie is phenomenal. I really think that's a masterclass in cinema from Sam Mendes. Uh, and now we're getting All Quiet on the Western Front, and it is a fantastic war movie. And let's talk about it. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new piece of content. So All Quiet on the Western Front came out kind of low-key for me. I didn't know it was coming out until it was on Netflix, and all of a sudden people were talking about it. The movie it's recorded in German, and then I watched it with the subtitles in English. I think that's the ideal way to watch this movie. It's about a group of young German recruits fresh out of school who go straight into the army into the heart of World War I. And they, of course, immediately go through the insanely heartbreaking and tragic trauma as they realize that war is not all that it's cracked up to be. This movie does a great job of capturing the grueling, nasty, and ultimately tragic and heartbreaking aspects of war. And I hesitate to even call this a war movie because this is an anti-war movie, which I think is what all war movies should be, right? We should be anti-war. We should be opposed to war. War is horrifying and should only be conducted under the most dire of circumstances. And All Quiet on the Western Front really does a phenomenal job capturing that. This is not a happy movie. It has moments of very brief moments of levity, and it has very brief moments of humor, but the bigger picture is war is nasty, it's hellish, and we should want nothing to do with it. And this movie does a phenomenal job capturing that. I like that it's told from the standpoint of the Germans, who in the movie they are essentially the bad guys. But I like that the movie's portrayed from their standpoint because these soldiers are just soldiers. And there's a side story that kind of involves Daniel Brühl's character, who's a high-ranking officer in the German military, as he tries to put an end to the war through negotiations with the Allied powers. And that story is really cool, and it kind of speaks to what's going on big picture in the war in that part of the world. And that's a cool aspect of the movie as well. The movie looks great. It sounds great. It's just as gory as it needs to be. It's horrifying, and that's what movies are like this are supposed to be. And it's really a great movie. The more I think about it, I watched it this morning, bright and early, and the more I've thought about it over the course of the day, the more I really, really do. And I use the word knowing that it's kind of a dumb thing to say, but I like this movie. It's a great piece of cinema and really one that everyone should watch. It's a stark reminder of the horror of war, and I think that's great. There's one thing I didn't like about the movie, and that's they do this weird thing, and it's kind of unnecessary. They have this kind of techno sound, I guess like a techno thump, throbbing noise that kind of plays in the background through some of it, and it doesn't make any damn sense. There's no reason to even put that in there. It's that thing that they do in modern movie trailers as well, dun, dun, the techno thump, and I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense, and it seems very out of place. All it does is remind you that you're watching a movie in 2022. And that's pretty much all. That's the only purpose that it serves, so I thought it was kind of stupid to put it in there in the first place. It doesn't take too much away from the movie, but it was noticeable. Really the only thing I disliked about the movie. Otherwise, this is a great film. It is very much R-rated, but it is worth a watch. So it's only on Netflix. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked it, found it helpful, I hope you would consider subscribing. You can also like and share the video. That tells the powers that be that it's worth promoting. And hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think of All Quiet on the Western Front, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.